You're listening to the CyberWire Network, powered by N2K.
Did you know Active Directory is targeted in 9 out of 10 cyber attacks? Once attackers get in, they can take control of your entire network. That's why Semperis created Purple Night, the free security assessment tool that scans your Active Directory for hundreds of vulnerabilities and shows you how to fix them. Join thousands of IT pros using Purple Night to stay ahead of threats. Download it now at semperis.com/purple-night. That's semperis.com/purple-night. A critical vulnerability in SUSE Manager allows attackers to run commands with root privilege. A joint CISA and U.S. Coast Guard threat hunt at a critical infrastructure site reveals serious cybersecurity issues. Healthcare providers across the U.S. report recent data breaches. Cyber criminals infiltrate a bank by physically planting a Raspberry Pi on a network switch. Russian state-backed hackers target Moscow diplomats to deploy Apollo Shadow malware. Luxembourg investigates a major telecom outage tied to Huawei equipment. China's cyberspace regulator summons NVIDIA over alleged security risks linked to its H2O AI chips. A new report examines early indicators of system compromise. Today, our guest is Ryan Whelan, Managing Director and Global Head of Accenture Cyber Intelligence, with their analysis of Scattered Spider. And Pwn2Own puts $1 million bounty on WhatsApp Zero Clicks. It's Friday, August 1st, 2025. I'm Dave Bittner, and this is your CyberWire Intel Briefing. Thanks for joining us here today. Happy Friday. I don't know how the rest of you feel, but it seems impossible to me that we are already in August. A critical vulnerability in SUSE Manager allows attackers to run commands with root privileges without authentication through an exposed WebSocket endpoint on port 443. This flaw, found during a customer security audit, affects multiple SUSE Manager versions, including recent container and cloud deployments. Attackers only need network access to exploit it. A proof of concept confirmed the risk using a simple HTML page. Immediate action is needed. Block port 443 or isolate vulnerable systems from untrusted networks, then patch using the updates SUSE has released. Until fully patched, organizations should enforce strict network controls to limit exposure. A joint CISA and U.S. Coast Guard threat hunt at a critical infrastructure site revealed serious cybersecurity issues, though no active threat actors were found. Key risks included shared admin accounts with plain-text passwords, weak IT/OT segmentation, and insufficient logging. Misconfigured systems allowed IT users direct access to SCADA networks, raising concerns about potential real-world safety impacts. Admin credentials were stored in scripts and reused across many devices, increasing the risk of lateral movement and persistence by attackers. Inadequate network controls and missing bastion hosts further weakened defenses. CISA urges critical infrastructure operators to fix misconfigurations, enforce unique credentials, use MFA, segment IT and OT environments, and adopt bastion hosts and VPNs. The advisory stresses urgency in addressing these gaps to prevent potential cyber-physical impacts. Additionally, yesterday, CISA issued 2 high-severity ICS advisories warning of major vulnerabilities in GUROP seismic devices and Rockwell automation systems using VMware. The GUROP flaw allows unauthenticated remote access via telnet, risking manipulation of seismic monitoring equipment. Rockwell systems face 4 critical VMware-related bugs, enabling code execution and full system compromise. No exploitation has been reported, but CISA urges immediate isolation of affected systems, network segmentation, and patching. Several healthcare providers across the U.S. have reported recent hacking-related data breaches. Mid-Florida Primary Care disclosed a breach affecting sensitive patient data accessed between November and December 2024. Northwest Denture Center in Washington confirmed the exposure of protected health information for over 12,000 individuals in May of this year. Equilibria Mental Health Services in Massachusetts was hit by a phishing attack, compromising up to 2,000 individuals. Forward, the National Data Bank for Rheumatic Diseases, reported unauthorized access in March, affecting personal and medical data. Meanwhile, Inc. Ransom claims to have targeted the West Virginia Primary Care Association, allegedly stealing 296 gigabytes of data. However, WVPCA has not confirmed any breach. Impacted organizations are offering credit monitoring and enhancing security protocols in response to these incidents. Cybercriminal group UNC 2891 infiltrated an Indonesian bank in early 2024 by physically planting a Raspberry Pi on a network switch linked to an ATM, Group IB reports. Equipped with a 4G modem, the device allowed remote access to the bank's internal systems. The attackers used a backdoor called TinyShell, disguised as a Linux display manager, to evade detection and maintain persistent access via the bank's mail server. Though they successfully stole cash, the attack was mitigated days later. Forensics teams struggled due to the group's advanced obfuscation tactics, including the use of Linux bind mounts, now documented as MITRE attack technique T1564.013. While the attackers aimed to deploy the CakeTap rootkit for further withdrawals, defenders ultimately blocked their goal. The incident highlights the need for advanced memory and network forensics beyond standard response measures. Russian state-backed hackers from the APT group Secret Blizzard, also known as Turla and Krypton, are targeting diplomatic personnel in Moscow using adversary-in-the-middle attacks to deploy custom malware called Apollo Shadow, Microsoft reports. The group, active since 2006 and linked to Russia's FSB, uses access at the ISP level via domestic surveillance systems like SORM to intercept traffic and deliver malware. Victims are redirected through a fake captive portal where Apollo Shadow installs a fake Kaspersky certificate to gain system control. The malware modifies system settings, installs root certificates via certutil, and creates a persistent admin account. Microsoft warns that diplomats using Russian ISPs are likely targets and urges use of VPNs, least privilege policies, MFA, and script blocking to reduce risk. This is the first confirmed case of ISP-level adversary-in-the-middle malware deployment inside Russia. Luxembourg is investigating a major telecom outage on July 23rd caused by a cyber attack that disrupted 4G and 5G services for over 3 hours. The attack, reportedly targeting Huawei equipment, also disrupted emergency calls, internet access, and banking services. Officials believe it was a deliberate, sophisticated denial-of-service attack exploiting a software flaw in Post-Luxembourg's infrastructure. A full forensic probe is underway. The incident has prompted a review of national resilience and may lead to regulatory changes for network redundancy during outages. China's cyberspace regulator has summoned NVIDIA over alleged security risks linked to its H2O AI chips sold in China. The Cyberspace Administration of China requested explanations and supporting evidence, citing national laws on data and network security. This follows growing concerns about U.S.-made AI chips containing tracking and remote shutdown features. U.S. lawmakers, including Senator Tom Cotton, have proposed laws to require such features for exported chips. The Cyberspace Administration of China claims NVIDIA's chips may already include this technology, prompting further scrutiny. A new report from Gray Noise reveals that attackers often begin exploiting vulnerabilities in edge devices up to 6 weeks before they're publicly disclosed or assigned a CVE. In 80% of cases, pre-disclosure activity, like scanning, brute forcing, and zero-day exploit attempts, spikes before the CVE is announced. This trend is especially common for 8 major vendors: Cisco, Citrix, Fortinet, Avanti, Juniper, MikroTik, Palo Alto Networks, and SonicWall. Gray Noise identified 216 such pre-disclosure spikes, urging defenders to treat them as early warnings. Security teams should enhance monitoring during these spikes, harden systems, and block malicious IPs to prevent compromise. These early indicators provide a window for proactive defense, especially against nation-state actors like typhoons, targeting enterprise edge devices for surveillance and long-term access. Coming up after the break, Ryan Whelan, Managing Director and Global Head of Accenture Cyber Intelligence, joins us with their analysis of Scattered Spider. And Pwn to Own puts $1 million bounty on WhatsApp Zero Clicks. Compliance regulations, third-party risk, and customer security demands are all growing and changing fast. Is your manual GRC program actually slowing you down? If you're thinking there has to be something more efficient than spreadsheets, screenshots, and all those manual processes, you're right. GRC can be so much easier, and it can strengthen your security posture while actually driving revenue for your business. You know, one of the things I really like about Vanta is how it takes the heavy lifting out of your GRC program. Their trust management platform automates those key areas: compliance, internal and third-party risk, and even customer trust, so you're not buried under spreadsheets and endless manual tasks. Vanta really streamlines the way you gather and manage information across your entire business. And this isn't just theoretical. A recent IDC analysis found that compliance teams using Vanta are 129% more productive. It's a pretty impressive number. So what does it mean for you? It means you get back more time and energy to focus on what actually matters, like strengthening your security posture and scaling your business. Vanta, GRC. Just imagine how much easier trust can be. Visit vanta.com/cyber to sign up today for a free demo. That's vanta.com/cyber. Hey everybody, Dave here. I've talked about Delete Me before, and I'm still using it because it still works. It's been a few months now, and I'm just as impressed today as I was when I signed up. Delete Me keeps finding and removing my personal information from data broker sites, and they keep me updated with detailed reports, so I know exactly what's been taken down. I'm genuinely relieved knowing my privacy isn't something I have to worry about every day. The Delete Me team handles everything. It's the set it and forget it peace of mind. And it's not just for individuals. Delete Me also offers solutions for businesses, helping companies protect their employees' personal information and reduce exposure to social engineering and phishing threats. And right now, our listeners get a special deal, 20% off your Delete Me plan. Just go to joindeleteme.com/N2K and use promo code N2K at checkout. That's joindeleteme.com/N2K, code N2K. Ryan Whelan is Managing Director and Global Head of Accenture Cyber Intelligence. I recently sat down with him to discuss their analysis of Scattered Spider.
So Scatter Spider, we would describe as a threat group that is primarily financially motivated, although that's one of the complicating factors because this group is also made up of a number of very young individuals who have exhibited some new and evolving motives, which makes them a little bit less predictable. But they've been extremely active recently, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. And they employ some very advanced social engineering techniques in order to conduct pretty advanced compromises of some of the most advanced security organizations and firms in the world.
Well, let's dig into the research here. I mean, what are some of the key points you'd like to share?
So obviously, Scatter Spider's been getting a lot of coverage recently, and we've seen, there's been a lot of discussion of their use of living off the land techniques, right? Less use of things like novel exploits and things like that, which make them even more hard to detect. But what we've been tracking has been, some of the things that have become more confounding for, I think, cyber defenders recently. And that is, given the fact that some of the members are very young, in addition to some of the more predictable things that they've done around, cyber criminal activity, deploying ransomware, looking to, sell data that they've compromised and things like that, they've also, they've taken kind of revenge tactics. They've taken tactics to pursue notoriety, where in the middle of a response, they'll engage media organizations. They'll weaponize media to try to prove defenders wrong, or to try to prove wrong the statements of companies as they look to rebuild their reputation and trust with customers. And so, they've demonstrated tactics that have made them much harder to confront for security researchers.
Is there anything in particular to take away from the fact that we seem to be dealing with a group of comparatively young people?
So I think there's a couple of things. One is, on the predictability side, right? What we see is the fact that they've, the approaches that they're taking are impacting organizations in non-traditional kind of security domains, right? They're using these social engineering techniques to target help desks, right? To impersonate IT workers or other sorts of help workers to convince individuals within the organization that they should hand over their passwords, or they should help circumvent multi-factor authentication, right? Some of our traditional security controls. And so I think the number one takeaway for us is that security extends kind of beyond the SOC, right? We are putting out a number of detections and traditional detections that can be used. But one of the most important things here, I think, for organizations to think about is how do they spread and build a culture of awareness, a culture of resilience to, right, the folks who might be manning their help desks, right, or to segments of their workforce that might be targeted in incidents like this, like developers and folks like that.
Do we have any sense for who these folks are, where they hail from?
We do. And what's interesting about this actually is this is one of the few groups where we actually have a pretty robust number of members that originate from Western organizations, right? So we've had members arrested across the UK in various law enforcement actions in the United States and elsewhere. And what makes that difficult, I think, from a defensive perspective, is that these aren't like the Nigerian princes trying to convince us to hand over our information. They're native English speakers, right? And they're folks who understand some of the cultural dynamics of how we communicate and how we engage, and so it lets them be very adaptive as they engage kind of their targets, their victims. And that just makes it harder to detect as they target organizations, and harder for us to understand, which again means that we need to invest more in how we're preparing ourselves and testing ourselves to be ready for these kinds of adversaries.
Well, as you mentioned, this one of this group's specialties is social engineering. Are there any particular red flags that folks on the help desks should be tuned into?
Most organizations are not going to, call you up on the phone and ask you to hand over individual credentials. They're not going to call you up on the phone and ask you to provide a code for a multi-factor, right, scenario. They're not going to call you on the phone and ask you to do that. One of the first things you should do, obviously, is, in that situation, is hang up and contact your own organization's, security operations center, or follow your organization's protocols in order to get around that. I think that's defensive line number one, right? Don't just automatically hand over those sorts of information.
So, Ryan, I mean, there have been some arrests here, and I think it's fair to say one in particular is probably a little unusual.
It is, Dave, and I think the one you're talking about is there was a Scattered Spider member that was arrested who turned out to be female, and what's notable about that is the vast majority of members that are rolled up in actions like this are male. Well over 90% are male, and so when we think about that in the context of social engineering, it creates a more believable story, right? We think about these actors as being male. And so if we get a phone call from a female, we may automatically be less inclined to question it or to think about it, especially, as we already kind of discussed, if there's somebody who's a native English speaker, who sounds trustworthy, right? Who's got this information that they've been able to pull from previous data leaks and really build a believable narrative. And so it just goes to show an added layer of complexity and sophistication that we are seeing from this actor.
Yeah, beware of your own preconceived notions, I guess.
Absolutely.
Ryan, before I let you go, my understanding is that you are heading off to the Black Hat conference here soon. Is that so?
That is true. I'm excited to be there next week.
What is it that you get out of this particular conference? Why is it worth your time to attend?
I'm always excited to go. I think, Dave, RSA is kind of like the business conference for me, whereas Black Hat and then DEF CON are kind of more of the practitioner conference. And so I think, what we get to dig into there is more of some of the emerging tactics and techniques that we're seeing adversaries use, and then, right, creative ways that we're seeing defenders get ready to confront those tactics and techniques.
Well, good luck and safe travels, and thanks for checking in with us. That's Ryan Whelan, Managing Director and Global Head of Accenture's Cyber Intelligence. Did you know Active Directory is targeted in 9 out of 10 cyber attacks? Once attackers get in, they can take control of your entire network. That's why Sempris created Purple Knight, the free security assessment tool that scans your Active Directory for hundreds of vulnerabilities and shows you how to fix them. Join thousands of IT pros using Purple Knight to stay ahead of threats. Download it now at sempris.com/purple-knight. That's sempris.com/purple-knight. Bad actors don't break in, they log in. Attackers use stolen credentials in nearly 9 out of 10 data breaches, and once inside, they're after one thing: your data. Varonis' AI-powered data security platform secures your data at scale. Across LaaS, SaaS, and hybrid cloud environments, join thousands of organizations who trust Varonis to keep their data safe. Get a free data risk assessment at varonis.com. And finally, the Zero Day Initiative is dangling a cool $1 million carrot in front of hackers who can crack WhatsApp with a zero-click exploit at this year's Pwn to Own Ireland contest. That's right, no taps, no swipes, no oops, I shouldn't have clicked that. Just code execution on a platform used by over 3 billion people. The challenge runs October 21st through the 24th in Cork, and Meta is all in as co-sponsor and enthusiastic target. After last year's WhatsApp category saw 0 takers, ZDI seems to think 7 figures might change some minds. Contestants can also go after everything from smart glasses and smartphones to surveillance gear and printers, because who doesn't want to hack a pair of Ray-Bans? There are bonus points and prizes for breaking in via USB on a locked phone. As always, vendors get 90 days to patch up before the zero-day initiative spills the beans. And that's the CyberWire. For links to all of today's stories, check out our daily briefing at thecyberwire.com. We'd love to hear from you. We're conducting our annual audience survey to learn more about our listeners. We're collecting your insights through the end of August. There's a link in the show notes. Please do check it out. Be sure to check out this weekend's Research Saturday and my conversation with Eric Woodruff, Chief Identity Architect at Sempris. We're discussing no-auth abuse alert, full account takeover of Entra cross-tenant SaaS applications. That's Research Saturday. Check it out. N2K's senior producer is Alice Carruth. Our CyberWire producer is Liz Stokes. We're mixed by Trey Hester with original music by Elliot Peltzman. Our executive producer is Jennifer Iben. Peter Kilpie is our publisher, and I'm Dave Bittner. Thanks for listening. We'll see you back here next week. Krogel is AI built for the enterprise SOC, fully private, schema-free, and capable of running in sensitive, air-gapped environments. Krogel autonomously investigates thousands of alerts weekly, correlating insights across your tools without data leaving your perimeter. Designed for high availability across geographies, it delivers context-aware, auditable decisions aligned to your workflows. Krogel empowers analysts to act faster and focus on critical threats, replacing repetitive triage with intelligent automation to help your SOC operate at scale with precision and control. Learn more at Krogel.com. That's Krogl.com.